Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with Elias, co-founder, co-owner, and lead product designer at Meeple Keepers. Their campaign for Gamelax is in its final hours on Kickstarter. Elias, welcome to the binge. How you doing, sir?
Hello, James. Thank you for having us.
Oh, it is great having you on the podcast. I saw it. Like, this is one of those things when you're kind of scrolling through Kickstarter and there's visuals that hit you. Man, the visuals hit me on this quick, and I was like, oh wow, what is that? Because I have, like everyone, a Gamelax system where, or not a Gamelax system, a Calyx system where it's a bit of a smorgasbord of boxes. You got tiny boxes, things are kind of stuck here and there. And anytime I see any, maybe it's just the OCD in me, but every time I see any kind of organization system, I just zone in on it. So we're going to get into the system in a second. But first and foremost, you're joining us from Athens, I believe?
From Athens, Greece, yes, which is about 32 degrees at the moment. And it's 8 o'clock at night. So, yeah.
So it's a little toasty, I'm assuming. And then I know with Greece, the Greek community, although I think in Greece itself, there's not a lot of huge gaming. I know in terms of publishers, designers, even like brokers and so forth, that community is quite large. So from a business standpoint, there's a lot of kind of export coming out of Greece in this board game hobby to other parts around the world. Is that a fair description?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in recent years, there has been quite an increase in the industry here, and we can see more and more designers designing featured games, let's say, in the industry. And yeah, I think it's quite fair, your description.
So how did you get into gaming? Because I always find it interesting. Like when I talk to someone in the States or in Canada, it's kind of part of the culture, really, right? Like gaming's been around since the beginning. And some of these other countries, when I'm talking to people, I'm always curious to find out like how they got into the hobby itself. So when first did you start gaming? Like, is this something when you're younger, or is this kind of later in life, or when did you get into gaming?
So, very nice question. It takes me back many, many years.
Yeah.
So I got into gaming. I mean, I always loved board games, and I was also a gamer, like computer gamer, when I was like a teenager with Nintendo and Amiga and this kind of console systems and computers. And board games, I can remember myself playing board games fairly all my life. But what got me more like in, let's say, in modern board gaming was
the hobby, yeah.
Yeah, the hobby was around 98 or around that time, yeah, with Carcassonne. And this, yeah, when Carcassonne first came out, it was like mind-blowing for me. It was, I don't know, it was my first experience with like modern board game. But yeah.
I would say outside of Settlers of Catan, and I say Catan instead of Catan because I'm Canadian. My brother actually introduced me to Carcassonne, and it was actually the Xbox version of it, so it wasn't even the physical game. I finally owned the physical game. I've only played the physical game once. Every time I play, it's always an electronic format, just because it's easier for the scorekeeping and so forth. But it's one of those games where you don't just play once, right? You play, and you're like, all right, let's one more. Let's do one more, right? Let's kind of almost like a tournament style, right?
Exactly. And when I first discovered that there were also expansions to that, that was like mind-blowing. I mean, it was like, what? There is more to this game? And well, that was one of the first. And then we played quite a bit of TTRPG with friends around like when we're about 18 years old or around that time. We played quite a bit. And then after when I moved to study abroad, because I studied in Scotland and then in Barcelona in Spain. So those years were a bit like board gaming dropped a bit. And then it was more like a different kind of life. And I came back to board gaming about 10 to 12 years ago. And I think the game that brought me back to modern board gaming, I would have to say, was Alien Frontiers,
Okay.
which was it was, I think it was the first board game that came to Kickstarter.
Yeah.
With a Kickstarter campaign. And then I got hooked again. And since then, I mean, I've been playing quite a bit. So yeah.
Was this Kickstarter hooked you in, or board game hooked you in, or kind of
No. I didn't know about Kickstarter back
Yeah.
then. I found out later that it was the first board game that ran a Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah.
I think it was the first one. But no, Kickstarters was much later than that. Yeah.
And then and I forgot that, like, what do you do as a day job? Like, what's outside of like designing cool stuff for this hobby? What do you do during the day? Like, what's your kind of your regular gig?
So about 10 years ago, I started a company with some friends with 3D printing. So 3D printing back then was it was something out of a science fiction movie here in Greece.
Sure.
So it was me with a couple of friends that we were actually building 3D printers back then. And we started a company that we built 3D printers with 3D printed parts, and we created workshops for people to build their own printers. So that's how we started in the business. And then this took off quite a bit initially. Then we had a bit of an issue in Greece with some economic crisis and some difficult years. And then we changed the model because afterwards the market opened a lot, and people could get cheap 3D printers. So basically there was no profit for us to build 3D printers anymore. So we just kept the business as servicing 3D printers and teaching people how to 3D print. And we got more into service, so designing and printing for people, for companies, etc. And at that point, I started designing some products, 3D printed products to sell online. Which we had a very good run and some quite good products with that. And at some point, just before around 2017, I think, 2018, just before COVID, basically, I started designing 3D printed inserts for board games. I mean, just for myself. And I got hooked, sort of. I just loved creating something that would make the gaming experience much better, especially for well, we'll say it for Fantasy Flight games and games like that you just don't get any kind of insert, and you had just 30 baggies or something with points, with tokens, etc.
Yeah.
And my OCD kicked in, and I started designing stuff, really nicely designed inserts for board games. And slowly I started designing more and more inserts, and that took off slowly, and we started creating Meeple Keepers from that.
Oh, that's amazing. It's interesting that, it's become so, in such a short period of time, the accessibility of 3D printing, it's just explode. Like I just before we went on air, I was telling you that I just recently got the Bamboo A1.
Yeah.
Full-size bed. It doesn't have the enclosure. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles. But for what I need it for, because I've got a niece that loves to paint stuff, I don't need that kind of multicolored
Mm,
you know, printing AMS system, I just need to print things in white or gray, and I can get someone to paint them for me. Or like
absolutely.
you're just saying, you know, I've got my game of Splendor that I bought off a friend where it had all the expansions, and I was trying to kind of cram them all in one box, and they kind of fit, but not really. Literally the first thing I printed was a insert for Celestia, which is this kind of pressure luck game that comes with a horrific organizer made of paper that doesn't even
Yeah,
fit the components. Like I have no idea like what they were thinking in the design of this insert.
yeah,
And then Splendor. And I have my 4 expansions and like the main game and then 3 expansions all in one box where literally things just pull out and drop right on the table. Project L is another one where you've got all these little bits of like Tetris pieces
mhm,
that you're having to baggy up at the end of the game night, and even setting them on the table, you're kind of putting them in piles. Doesn't make a lot of sense. 3D print, like within one day now, I've got an insert in that box, right? So for people that are in this hobby that have a collection, very economically, they can get into it. And like I'm not an engineer, right? Like I can dabble in a little bit of like Blender and things like that, but by no means can I do any of that. And out of the box, I was literally printing within like 2 hours of, you know, just taking the kind of bolts off the printer and download something off the internet and printing it. Like it is so easy that I can imagine now anybody that does have skill like yourself, right, that can
yeah,
actually design and look at something and say, okay, now how can I make this fit that? Man, like I would almost say that the market's probably opened up even more for you, right? Where although yes, now everybody has a printer, so maybe you know, printing something for someone isn't as big of a deal as it was maybe 10 years ago, where everyone had to find someone to print something for them. But now those people that aren't looking to invest a bunch of time in learning how to design and, you know, create 3D files and things like that, that now is a service that is you've got a way bigger audience for now that you can service. So it's kind of interesting on how you guys have kind of pivoted your business model, right, to kind of move with the evolution of 3D printing.
exactly. And for me, it's completely amazing what has happened like in recent years, especially. I'm not endorsing or anything. I have no affiliation to Bamboo Labs or anything, but uh, it has been sort of a game changer. Like uh, I've had people who have absolutely zero experience with 3D printing
Yeah.
or even computing, basically. But and they can get a bamboo and just in like 1 hour they can go on printing uh, a project that I, I would say like 4 or 5 years ago would be an enormous task. I mean, you would
Yeah.
need a lot of knowledge and know-how to be able to print it. And I'm really, really happy about this because it really gives access to many people to actually see, I mean, what you can do with 3D printing. It's really amazing. And for me, the whole model with 3D printing is what is really interesting is that you move to a different kind of well, economy and
Yeah.
whole sense of product and everything. I mean, you don't need to stock anything. You don't need to have you just need the file and you print exactly what you want. There is sort of zero waste. I mean, if you need one product, you get exactly that product and that's it.
What I
You
love it
don't need
is,
you don't need to ship anything. You don't need to, yeah,
yeah, I was gonna say is even like outside of board games, there's just the ability to print like even a piece you need for something to
exactly.
you know, to fix, say you've got like a remote control and the back is broken, or
Yeah,
what.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, someone has probably put that file online where you can download it and print it
yeah,
off. Like even the bamboo printer, and I will endorse that. I mean, that's the one I bought. I'm not getting
yeah,
anything
yeah,
from them, but I love it
yeah,
because again, it was
yeah,
plug and play, and the software that it comes with makes it even easier to
yeah,
just plop a file in and kind of visually arrange it and then hit, you know, send to print. But even there, I had a buddy said, well, before you print anything, your first print should be this piece, which is going to keep the cord from getting tangled up on your printer.
yeah,
So the first thing I did
yeah,
is I printed a piece
yeah,
that actually clicked into the
yeah,
printer to help me
yeah,
print other stuff. So
yeah,
it's so cool the things you do. So from that evolution, and then I can now visualize how this came together, right? So
yeah.
you're heavy into the 3D printing and design. And then you see what most people have in their house. I'm sure you have as a Calyx, right? To hold their board games because they're just almost
Yeah,
designed perfectly to hold board games. And
yeah.
at what moment was it where you looked at that and said, wait a second, I should create something that can kind of allow people to modify this standard Calyx and store their stuff better? Like when did that kind of hit you?
Okay, so basically we had well, we had the Kalax in the other office full of board games, and
Yeah.
we had them all stacked and maybe vertically and stuff like that. And you would get a box of squashed or whatever, and you would waste so much space behind or in front. So we said, okay, maybe let's try to see if we can maybe get some shelves on Kallax. And that's how it started initially. I mean, we wanted to split it so we could have separate board games on each Kallax cube.
Yeah.
So we first had the idea of, okay, we have a system by IKEA that does not have any holes. You don't want to pierce it, or we don't want to use screws. All our prints and everything we want to do is we want to have all prints to be without support so that it could be for really novice 3D printing for anyone, basically. You can just put it and no supports, no nothing. So you just take it out of the printer and that's your product. So you don't need to waste any filament
And
for
so for
supports
people
or
who
anything.
aren't 3D printers, what we mean by
Third,
supports
yeah,
is sometimes if you have something where you can't print on air, right? You need to have, if there's a
exactly.
piece that
Yeah,
overhangs, the most 3D printers have what are called supports. We'll print some
yeah,
plastic up like a tree to where that
yeah.
overhang is, and then they'll start that overhang from there. So that, and then you break those off afterwards, right?
Yeah, so
So
you if you want to
yeah,
print something like that, it's you would waste a lot of film because as it prints like that, you would need supports here. So we want to
yeah,
print everything upright. So so basically because you get zero waste. I mean, you don't throw away any filament.
yeah.
So whatever you put in, you get out. So that's one of our major design specifications when we design a product. We don't want any supports and no waste.
And likewise,
Um,
color too, I imagine, right?
yeah,
Like my system is like a dark, almost like they call it an espresso colored calyx. I call it calyx.
it's
A
the
lot of people
brown
call it.
one.
It's like
It's
a
a
dark
brown one.
brown, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I could go with the dark if I wanted black, say, just print it in that
Sure.
filament, and it go. And then what kind of filament is this entire system based on? Is it like just standard PLA or
Just standard PLA.
yeah?
I mean, it's the easiest one to print. PLA is the most standard, let's say, 3D printing filament that you can get in the market. It's
Hmm.
very easy to print. It's they say it's biodegradable, so it's good for the environment, let's say, but I don't know how much of this is true. But yeah, it's supposed to be the best of the plastics that you get out there.
Hmm.
And yeah, basically you can customize it in any color you want. I mean, if you have a white Calyx, you can just print them in red and they can stand out, or you can just print them in white and they disappear. So in the background. So that's how we started designing the system. And the first issue we had was, okay, so we have a cube which has no holes, nothing to hold on to. So how do we put a shelf on it? And
Hmm.
how can we put some weight on that? And uh, so we designed two walls that you put on the sides, which have holes. And we want to see how we can utilize that. And first, how we can attach the walls to the calyx without using any screws or piercing the calyx, etc. So we
Hmm.
devised quite a nice solution that we have a sort of a coin on top that you just twist it, and it takes the extra distance from the walls, so it attaches sort of. It's quite magic if you see it once you print it. It attaches on the side. And then what we did for the for the shelves is something that you can only do with 3D printing. So basically, and we want to accommodate people with any printing volume. That is, even if they have a small printer, they can print the whole project.
Hmm.
So
Oh wow.
so our design focuses that we shouldn't have any supports, so people can print it really easily and without any waste, and also that they can print it in any size printer. So we designed the shelves like this, which is one piece, and you print it like that, and you take it out of the printer, and it has a hinge. So as soon as you put it on the sides, it creates a tension, and the more weight you get on top of it, the better and the more sturdy it becomes. So these are design things that you could, I don't think you can do with standard, technologies like you could do with wood or stuff. So it's nice because we try to utilize as much as possible the possibilities and the capabilities of a 3D printer and the whole technology.
Can you print that on like a mini?
Sorry?
Will the Bamboo Mini print, will these fit on a Bamboo Mini as well, or?
What is the
The
build
Bamboo
plate of
Minis,
that?
they're like entry level, and it's got a smaller bed size. I think it's like an 8-inch bed size.
How much?
I think it's 8 inches. Yeah, they call it the
Eight
Bamboo
inches.
Mini.
I'm trying to convert it into centimeters.
Okay.
So basically, all our parts
Yeah,
should fit in a 20 by 20 centimeter
got
bed
it.
size,
Okay, so
which
there's a
is
12 by 12 inch. Yeah,
I think, is it 12?
I think you're 20
Uh,
centimeters. Yeah, we're
no, wait. I'll just I
without
think
getting
it's
caught in the
about
weeds.
nine.
Doesn't we'll put as a follow
Yeah,
up. We'll put as a
yeah.
follow up. So I mean, what's really cool is I like the modular components of how much. I'm just curious, like what kind of trial and error did you go through on this? Like I gotta believe that you've got a bin somewhere of rejected like prints where you're just trying to get this to work, and it's like
Yes.
it's still not.
We do. Not quite that much because we print like smaller parts just to
Sure.
test the idea and the concept and the mechanic. And then we move into larger sizes, etc.
Yeah.
We sure do have a big box of wasted parts and test prints or ideas that we tried, and then we found out something that we like more.
Yeah.
And but not that much. I mean, as we progress and we work more and more together with the team, we start working together much better, and we know what will work and what will not. So we can already see it from pen and paper or from the computer screen beforehand.
Yeah.
But yeah, there has been quite a bit of plastic wasting for developing. Yes.
Well, I mean, for those, and again, I'd be remiss to not to mention this, is that you're in your final 24 hours on this campaign.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this in Canadian dollars. That's the only way I can see it, but it's almost $104,000 you've raised on a goal of about 7,000, 1,215 backers. And these are files, right? So people are paying to get access
Yeah.
to these files. I noticed that you also had in there like an e-commerce like an e-commerce type license. So if someone wants to print and put on their
Yeah.
Etsy store or print and sell to people they can, which I
Sure.
think is pretty cool. How many different types of uh like organizational elements are there to this system? Because like it's so modular. Like I can see in the
Yeah.
images on your page, there's obviously shelves. I can see a display rack that can go into a shelf for your smaller box
Yeah.
games. I can see drawers. There's your playmat holders.
Yeah.
Is there like is there ever a time when you and the team are sitting around saying, hey, let's add this other thing in, or is there still stuff you guys are creating that's going to be kind of layered in before this delivers, or kind of what's the current plan?
So we already have quite a few stretch goals unlocked as well, but there are quite many elements like drawers and modular drawers for like cards, playmat holders. There are displays for mini games, and also the whole. I don't know if you can see, like here, for example, you have drawers that you get, and you can customize as you want. I mean, you can
Yeah.
just have half drawers or half board games. And you can also actually take a whole drawer and you have a set of handles, like that you can take it and just take the whole drawer of card games that you have or your collection and just take it with you.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, so it's very modular. I mean, you can have a full case just with shelves or just with all your organizers for tokens, for dice, for whatever
And likewise,
you
even
need.
displaying like your minis. I noticed that there's a
Yeah,
section where you're displaying your minis as well.
yeah, yeah. There, I don't have it here. I have it in another Kilax, but yeah, there is a display for miniatures.
And what
Yeah,
about the
and
like? And I noticed there's even like game token organizing trays that again they slide into the thing, but they can also go with you
yeah,
and go on the table as well, right?
yeah. So we have created this, which is based on our previous
Yeah.
campaign, the Gameframe, which is a modular system that you can attach around your ordinary table and convert it basically into a
A
gaming
game table.
table.
That's
And
awesome.
and and it's fully customizable as well. I mean, you can just change anything. I mean, we have all kinds of different accessories that you can put, but
Sure.
this this we have it here that you can store your tokens and everything. It has some card holders as well, and basically you can just take it, put it on the table, and just start playing and
Sure.
just
And
use it
then
for game night.
I noticed also in some of the images, there's like illumination. So is there like, I
Yeah.
guess, is there instructions on how to add like LED lights, or is it say, hey, go to the Amazon and pick up LED lights here, and this is how they kind of fit in, or how does that work?
Uh, Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, it looks like you just froze really quickly there. I was
Is
just
it
saying
good?
with you, yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
So I was saying with your, like, I noticed a lot of the images look really, really slick because they've
Mm.
got illumination, right? Like there's
Yeah.
lighting. So how does the lighting work? Is it like, do you point people towards where to get the lighting, or how does that
No,
work?
so basically what we designed for all our sorry, just a second. What we designed for both game frame system that we created, that it has an option for LED lighting as
Mm,
well as like the Gamelax. We basically designed some parts that you can attach just a standard LED strip. Um, we don't actually provide information at the moment of how to install it,
hmm.
but on the manual that you get alongside the files, you get how where you place the LED strip and the diffuser if you need, so that you can create the whole thing. What there is the ability to, we don't provide the LED strip.
Yeah. And given that this is these are files essentially delivering,
Yeah.
how quickly after the campaign closes will you start delivering?
So we plan to deliver beginning of September.
Mm,
We have most of the files ready, but I mean, all we need to do at the moment is after the campaign finalizes and we get the backer kit to open, etc. We just need to create just the final folders with the files organized as we
hmm.
did with the game frame, alongside with a manual of how to print, what to print, and
Got it.
all these things. So basically, we need after the campaign finishes, the files are already ready. We just need to organize them and prepare them for all the users.
Where do you go from here as a company? Are you already thinking about the next kind of 3D printed accessory, or like what, how have you kind of mapped this out? Because obviously you guys are on a bit of a run here now, right? In terms of your
Yeah,
success with these. Where do you go from here?
yeah. So we have quite a few ideas that we want to develop. Quite a few actually.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I won't disclose much at the moment because we've already started to design some of these things. But for sure, we are planning to create a new campaign for Gameframe. We're doing
Mm,
a whole updated campaign on Gameframe because it was quite a big success, and we have ideas on to improve the actual product, and I think it's going to be really, really good. because we've got a lot of feedback from the community and from the Discord that we have for Gameframe.
Yeah.
And we're planning to use all the input that we have to create the next version, which I'm sure it's going to be, pretty epic.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I can't wait to see how this ends. I mean, you guys got 24 hours to go, and I can see the thing just ticking fast even while we're chatting here. So, I want to wish you all the best in this campaign. For those that want to look this up, Meeple Keepers, Gamelax, both those searches will take you to this page. I'm going to put a link in the show notes as well as on our Facebook group page. I will put a link there as well. And I encourage people to check it out. It looks, if you're into 3D printing, this is as cool as it gets. So Elias, I want to wish you all the best, my friend. And
thank you very much.
Let's see how this ends.
It was a pleasure.
All right, brother. You take care, man. Cheers.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.